What will you need to do to make this an easy transition? We've been talking about it for so long. Moving is something she's familiar with. Jessica was resistant to it first. For her to be involved in the discussion, to have a say-so, let her make all her decisions about what she wants to move. And now, from Autistic Interpretations, I think we have quite a few new followers, so I want to introduce myself. I am Jessica, Madison, and Hannah's mother. That is their birth order. Hannah's the baby, Madison's the middle child, and Jessica's the oldest. Madison lives out of state, and so you don't see him on a lot of videos, and part of that is that he doesn't live here in our town, and part of it is because he prefers to stay more private and not be on a lot of videos. We made a big announcement the other day that we are moving. Moving is something that we've talked about for years. Jessica has been very focused on the topic of moving. We've debated a long time about how we're going to move, where we're going to move, when we're going to move, why we're going to move, when's the best time to move. So this is something we've discussed for years. One of the options we had discussed is consolidating households with Bad Daddy and selling one of our houses, and then later selling the other house, and potentially buying a big house that we could all live in together. So this is kind of an interim move where we're going with this long-term plan that we kind of laid out in the past about consolidating, selling, and moving. So anyway, that's the background on all of that. Our current home is smaller than Bad Daddy's home by 1,100 square feet, and it will be nice to have a little more room to spread out. Jessica's excited about the move. She actually was so excited yesterday because she got most of her important stuff moved, and she was just on a real high about being that close to actually moving. And she told me, kind of jokingly, she said, "Mom, I finally moved out." We did a Q&A yesterday. If you missed the Q&A, I can put a link up here. I have a couple follow-up questions. The main question I wanted to address is, what will you need to do to make this an easy transition for Jess? And so I think, first of all, the main thing is that we've been talking about it for so long. So moving is not something that we have just suddenly sprung upon her. Moving is something she's familiar with. Before we bought this house, we moved 5 or 6 times. And she does remember most of those moves. She's got an excellent memory, so she remembers most of those moves, probably not the first one. So she understands the concept of moving and leaving a home behind. Our moves over the years have been gradual. We went from one apartment to a slightly bigger apartment, which we really hated apartment life. So we bought a trailer, a mobile home trailer, and put it up in the woods behind my parents' house. They had a lot of acreage, and so we did that, and that was a little bit bigger. And so then eventually, when Hannah was born and we were really too crowded for that space, we bought a little bit bigger home. And then as the kids grew, we got a little bit bigger home, and we also didn't like living. It was too far out of the mainstream for us, so we only stayed there a little over a year and before we bought the house that Bad Daddy's in. That is a house we picked out together. We both really loved it as soon as we walked through the door. Jessica is very familiar with that house. The transition back over there, Jessica was resistant to at first. When we first started talking about it, that wasn't what she had in mind. She wants the adventure of something new, somewhere different. And she's talked for years about wanting to live away from where we live, like move far, far away. It's just intriguing to her. I don't think she would like it if we actually did that, because we'd be too far away from family and friends and loved ones. She wasn't excited about the idea of moving from here back to there. As Jessica has matured over the last 5 years or so, this dramatic maturity that I see happening, this just ongoing, I've just been more straightforward with her than I used to be in the past when she wasn't up for it. And now I'm testing that out a little bit more about what she's able to process and concepts that she's able to grasp. And I'm just giving that a little bit more of a go than I used to. So I've been talking to Jessica about financial matters, such as when we made this, we were having this big discussion about which pool we were going to buy. And we went to a pool store. We looked at pools and we saw how expensive they were going to be. I think the pool was like the smallest one we saw at the pool store was like $5,000. And then it was going to be several $1,000s to get the site ready to put the pool. And anyway, it was going to end up being this really big expense. And I explained to Jessica, now look, if we're going to invest that much money in a pool for the backyard, we're going to need to stay here a while and pay it off. But if you want to move sooner, we can get a much smaller pool that doesn't cost as much money. We kind of had this ongoing discussion about the size of pool we're going to have and how much it was going to cost and which one we could get and still consider moving sooner rather than later. So we had this discussion for a while. And even when we scaled down to a smaller pool, I still would need to invest money to get a spot ready because our backyard is so sloped. I eventually had a discussion with Jessica about the housing market. And she, as we've talked about houses, and every day she would say, how's the market today? That's what she would ask us in the mornings. And we would say, well, there's nothing new on the market. And because I was keeping track of it, and like many places in the country right now, as soon as you put something on the market, it's gone. I eventually explained to her how if we sold our house right now, it would help us save money for a new house if we waited until the market wasn't crazy to buy a new house. So that's a deep concept for Jessica, and we talked about it multiple times about what that means about sell this one now and buy later when housing isn't like it is right now. It's hard for a lot of us, I think. And but eventually, I think she understood that it would help us out in our plan to get a new place, a bigger place, if we made this in-between move. So we didn't make any definitive plans about moving back to Bad Daddy's until Jessica understood that enough to be okay with it. And once she understood that enough to be okay with it and said that she was agreeable to it, that's when we kind of started moving forward with actually making the plan. So that part of the transition that was real important for making the transition work for Jessica, for her to be involved in the discussion, to have a say-so, to be agreeable, and feel like it was the right thing for her too, for her own personal desire to have a bigger place in the future. The next thing we did that has helped with the transition, I feel like, is once we made the decision and said, okay, we're definitely going to do this, one day we said, would you like to take some coloring books over to Bad Daddy's house, to your room at Bad Daddy's? You can just, put your coloring books in a bag. And she did. So I think she and Marlow might have taken some first. And then another day we're like, do you want to take some more of your coloring books? And she said yes. And then it kind of grew from there. I think one day they said, hey, do you want to take your winter clothes? And they took some of her winter clothes. And so it was just gradual. And eventually, after several trips of doing that, she would wake up and she would say, I want to take so-and-so over today. And we have just let her make all her decisions about what she wants to move and when. And that since we're able to do that, and we have this window of time to get moved. So we've let her move her own things at her own pace, and we got to this balance where there were more important things at Bad Daddy's than here. and she wanted to make a push to get all of her important things over there. And so we did that yesterday, and all of her stuff is there, and she is so excited about it and in the best mood about it. And so I think overall we're good on the transition part for Jessica. But it has involved a tremendous amount of discussion, and she still wants to know on a regular basis, but we're still going to get another house, right? This is just temporary. She says temporary. This is just temporary, right? The pool that we have bought for the summer is Bad Daddy's house already, so we'll be assembling that probably later in the month when it's warmer. We took some of her food over there yesterday. I felt like that was an important thing to include so that she has access to the stuff that she can do independently and feels comfortable with. And I think our plan for having space for everybody is important, and for all of us, but including Jessica. I've explained to her that I'm going to have my own space in my room. I'm going to have a seating area. I'm going to have my own TV, and that we can hang out, just the two of us, if we want to. And Hannah's going to try to do the same thing in her room. We're all going to kind of have our own space and refuge if we need it, and I think that's an important factor too. I think those are the biggies for transitions for her. I think at this point she's good with it, and Jessica's always been an adventurer. She likes adventure and excitement, and for her this is just a new stage, a new thing to do, and she's all in. And she will remind me probably every day for the next 2 years that another move is imminent. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is. That's what we're going to do to make the transition easier for Jess. Thanks for watching.